My parents used me like an ATM, believed my sister's lie, and banned me from the family party, so I gave them an ending they never expected. I delivered an ending they truly didn't anticipate. I'm a 32-year-old man working in the tech industry in Seattle. My career is solid, I have stable income, benefits, and everything that goes with it. I don't boast, but I'm quite comfortable. Because of this comfort, I've always thought, why not support my family when they need it? After all, we're kin, right? You're supposed to have each other's backs. So, over the years, I became the one to cover expenses. My parents needed help with home repairs. I handled it. Vanessa, my younger sister, required funds for her wedding. Certainly, I could contribute. Initially, I didn't object. It felt good knowing I was easing their burdens a bit. But then there's Vanessa. Vanessa, 26, is married to Matt, who essentially mirrors her every thought. She's pursuing some sort of psychology degree. Don't misunderstand, she's intelligent, but she's also incredibly skilled at influencing others. From day one, she's been my parents' favorite. She's vivacious, charming, and always knows precisely what to say to win people over. Because of this, she's never had to face consequences for anything. Growing up, the favoritism was stark. Vanessa consistently received new clothes, the best toys, and all the attention. Me? I was the elder child, the dependable one. My parents simply assumed I didn't require as much, and I never complained. I held part-time jobs throughout high school and college, saved my earnings, and avoided trouble. That was my family role, the quiet one who asked for little. Vanessa, however, mastered the art of getting her way. When she turned 16, my parents declared she needed a car. Not wanted, needed. They lacked the funds for anything decent. So, naturally, they asked me to chip in for my savings. I had been working part-time at a hardware store, setting aside money for university. But my parents believed it would be kind if I assisted Vanessa. I relented. It wasn't as if I had much choice, not with my mother delivering her "family should support each other" speech. Vanessa got her car, a used sedan that wasn't flashy but she adored, and I moved on. Then, when it was time for her to attend university, she got into an expensive private institution out of state. My parents couldn't afford it, so they requested my help. This time, I was supposed to defer graduate school so they could allocate funds toward Vanessa's tuition. I resisted, but again, the entire family support rhetoric emerged. Vanessa, of course, played her part flawlessly, saying things like, "I just want to achieve something," and "Dean, I promise I'll repay you someday." By the time Vanessa married a few years later, I had become accustomed to the routine. She desired her dream wedding, and my parents couldn't cover all the extras, so they approached me. "Dean, it's just a small amount for the flowers," they said. "You wouldn't want your sister to be disappointed on her special day, would you?" I'm unsure why I consistently agreed to these things. Perhaps it was guilt. Or maybe I simply wished to avoid conflict. Either way, I always stepped up. Over the years, I became the primary resource for everything. Vanessa and my parents often didn't even need to ask, they simply expected my assistance. Frankly, I didn't mind, at least not initially. I convinced myself it was fine because I was doing well. I had a good job, and the money wasn't creating financial strain. Moreover, helping them maintained harmony. I reasoned, as long as I wasn't struggling, why not? It's family. Still, no matter what I did, it was never quite enough for them. I've achieved every milestone one could as a successful adult, a stable job, a comfortable home, no debt. Yet, it's as if none of that matters because I don't conform to their vision of what my life should entail. No spouse, no children, no perfectly staged holiday cards. My parents enjoy delivering subtle remarks about still hoping for grandchildren or how it's not too late to settle down. Meanwhile, Vanessa could arrive at Thanksgiving with her life in disarray, and they would still beam with pride, simply for her existence. It's truly draining. The more I helped, the more they anticipated. It ceased being about whether I could afford to help and began revolving around whether I should. If I ever hesitated or declined, it spiraled into a guilt trip. "Dean, don't you care about your family? Dean, you're doing so well. Why can't you just assist?" It reached a point where I wasn't even being asked, I was being instructed. Vanessa never displayed any gratitude. If anything, she acted as though she were entitled to my help, as if it were my duty to simplify her life. She's always been adept at twisting narratives, presenting herself as the victim. If I ever pushed back or attempted to establish a boundary, she would transform it into a tearful account of her hardships. My parents would completely fall for it, and I'd end up as the villain. It all reached its peak this year. Looking back, I can't believe it took me so long to grasp how dire things had become. I was so accustomed to being the one who kept everything running smoothly that I didn't notice how extensively I was being exploited. But Vanessa finally crossed a line, and once she did, there was no returning. About a week before Christmas, my mother called. Initially, I didn't think much of it. Mom calling before the holidays was typical, and I assumed it would concern Christmas dinner or perhaps some minor family drama. But as soon as I answered, I sensed something was off. Her voice held that excessively sweet tone she used when she was about to deliver unwelcome news. "Hi honey," she began, "how are you?" I told her I was fine, and we exchanged the usual pleasantries for a minute or two. Then she delivered the blow. "Listen Dean, we've been considering. Perhaps it's best if you don't come to Christmas this year." At first, I thought I'd misheard her. "Wait, what?" I asked. "Why wouldn't I come to Christmas?" "Well," she said, drawing out the word as if trying to soften the impact, "Vanessa mentioned some things you've said recently, and we just don't want any negativity spoiling the day." "Negativity?" I repeated. "What are you talking about? What did Vanessa say?" Mom hesitated for a second, as if unsure whether to disclose it. Then she sighed and stated, "She told us you've been saying some rather hurtful things about Christmas. That you dislike spending money on gifts for the family and think our Christmases are a waste of time because they're entirely about her." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Are you serious?" I said, my voice rising slightly. "I never said anything like that." "Well," she responded, sounding uncertain. Vanessa seemed quite upset about it. She said, "You've been telling people how much you don't like our Christmases and how you don't think they're worth your time." I was staggered. Not only was this a blatant fabrication, but the fact that my mother believed Vanessa without even consulting me hurt more than I'd anticipated. It wasn't the first time Vanessa had distorted facts to make herself look good and me look bad, but this felt like a new low. "Mom," I said, trying to maintain a calm tone, "I don't know what Vanessa told you, but I never said anything like that. In fact, I've been planning what to get you and Dad for Christmas for weeks." "Well," she said again, in that way she does when she doesn't wish to argue. "We just think it's better if you skip this one. You've seemed a bit distant lately, and we don't want any tension during the holidays." At that moment, I realized there was no point in arguing. My mother had already made up her mind, and nothing I said would alter it. "Fine," I said, keeping my tone curt. "If that's what you want." She sounded surprised that I wasn't contesting her. "It's not about what we want, honey. We just think it's for the best." "Sure," I said, not bothering to conceal the sarcasm. "Merry Christmas, Mom." Then I ended the call. I sat there for a minute, simply staring at my phone. I wasn't even angry, just weary. Tired of always being the one who had to explain himself, the one who had to defend himself against Vanessa's fabrications. It was as if, no matter what I did, I was perpetually the antagonist in her narrative. The next day, Vanessa called. At first, I didn't even want to answer. I assumed she'd probably call to gloat about getting me uninvited, but a part of me was curious, so I picked up. "Hey Dean," she said, her voice as cheerful as ever, as if nothing had occurred. "What do you want, Vanessa?" I said, not bothering to feign happiness at hearing from her. She didn't even acknowledge my tone. Well, listen, I need a little help," she said. "My grad school tuition is due soon, and Mom and Dad can't really afford to help much right now. I was hoping you could contribute." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Are you serious?" I said. "You just got me uninvited to Christmas, and now you're asking me for money?" There was a pause, as if she hadn't expected me to mention that. "Oh, come on, Dean," she said finally, her tone light and dismissive. "That's not what this is about. Christmas is one thing, but this is important. It's my education. I could feel my blood boiling, but I forced myself to remain calm. Vanessa, do you even hear yourself? You lied to Mom and Dad about me, got me excluded from Christmas, and now you want me to pay for your tuition? Do you even care how messed up that sounds? She sighed, as if I were the one being difficult. Dean, don't be so dramatic. Mom and Dad just wanted a peaceful Christmas, and you've been kind of negative lately. Besides, this isn't about Christmas. It's about helping your family. There it was, the guilt trip. Vanessa had perfected it over the years. Whenever she desired something, she'd invoke the family card, as if it were my duty to resolve all her issues simply because we shared DNA. I'll think about it, I said, cutting her off before she could continue. She seemed satisfied with that. Great. Thanks, Dean. I knew I could count on you. After she hung up, I sat there for a while, just staring at my phone. The audacity was mind-blowing. Not only had Vanessa managed to turn my own family against me, but now she had the nerve to ask me for money as if nothing had occurred. But the more I pondered it, the more I realized this wasn't just about Christmas or tuition. This was about years of being taken for granted. Years of being expected to step up and help while Vanessa glided through life with a smile and a sob story. I wasn't going to let it slide this time. The day after Vanessa called, I contacted my mother and informed her we needed a family meeting. Me, you, Dad, Vanessa, and Matt, I said. We're sitting down tomorrow, and we're discussing this. Mom hesitated, as she always does when she believes I'm about to disturb the equilibrium Vanessa has her completely captivated by. Dean, is this really necessary? I interjected. I just got excluded from Christmas because of something Vanessa said that isn't even true. We're going to talk about it. After a pause, she reluctantly agreed. Fine, tomorrow at 6. But Dean, please don't make this a big deal. Christmas is approaching, and I don't want any stress in the air. I hung up without responding. If my own family didn't want me there for Christmas, I saw no reason to pretend everything was fine. The next evening, I pulled up to my parents' house. It was the same place I'd grown up, but over the years, it had started to feel less like home and more like a place where I was merely tolerated. I didn't bother to dress up, just jeans and a hoodie. This wasn't about impressing anyone. When I walked in, Vanessa and Matt were already there. Matt gave me his usual awkward nod, the kind that communicated, I don't want to be involved in this. Vanessa didn't even look up from her phone. Typical. Mom emerged from the kitchen carrying a tray of coffee and cookies, as if this were some festive gathering. Hi Dean, she said, forcing a smile. We were just getting settled. Great, I said, not bothering to feign any pleasantry. Let's begin. Dad was in his recliner, arms crossed, observing me as if I were the problem. I ignored him and took a seat across from Vanessa. She finally looked up, her face a blend of false innocence and mild irritation. So, Mom said after a moment of uncomfortable silence, what did you want to discuss, Dean? I didn't waste time. This is about Christmas and the fact that I wasn't invited because of something Vanessa said that's entirely untrue. Vanessa rolled her eyes. Oh my God, are you still on about that? She said, her tone dripping with annoyance. I didn't lie. That's what you said, or at least how it came across. Really? I said, pulling out my phone. Because I have the text to prove otherwise. Her smug expression faltered for a second, but she quickly recovered. Texts? Yeah, I said, scrolling through my messages. Remember when I asked you what I should get Mom and Dad for Christmas? This was 2 weeks ago. I opened the conversation and handed my phone to my mother. Here's me asking Vanessa for gift ideas, I said. And I quote, I don't care about the cost, I just want to get them something meaningful. Mom's face softened as she read the message, but before she could say anything, I continued, and here's Vanessa's response. I pointed to the next message. Why waste money on gifts they don't even appreciate half the time? I let that sink in for a moment before adding, so tell me again, Vanessa, how I'm the one who dislikes Christmas and doesn't want to spend money on gifts. The room fell completely silent. Mom looked up at Vanessa, her expression confused. Dad shifted uncomfortably in his seat, as if he didn't know how to process what he was hearing. Vanessa, on the other hand, doubled down. "Oh, come on," she said, crossing her arms. "You're making this a bigger deal than it needs to be." "I didn't mean it like that." "Didn't mean it like what?" I shot back. "You told Mom and Dad falsehoods about me. Meanwhile, you're the one complaining about how much gifts cost and saying they don't appreciate it anyway." She glared at me, but I could see the cracks in her confidence. "It's not a big deal, Dean. You're overreacting." I turned to my mother. "Am I overreacting?" "Because you believed her without even inquiring with me about it. You excluded me from Christmas based on her word alone." Mom opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. She looked at Dad, probably hoping he'd support her, but he just sat there, arms crossed, staring at the floor. Vanessa wasn't finished. She shifted in her seat, arms still crossed, but there was a calculating look in her eyes now. I'd witnessed it 100 times before. It was the look she gave right before twisting everything to make herself the victim. "Okay, fine," Vanessa said, throwing her hands up. "Yes, I said that, but do you want to know why? Because I've been under so much pressure lately, and it's been truly challenging to keep up with everything. I'm barely managing as it is, and now you're dragging me through the mud in front of everyone just to make yourself appear better." Mom's face softened immediately, and I could see Dad's scowl deepen. "Vanessa," Mom said gently, "what do you mean, honey? What's been so difficult?" Vanessa sniffed dramatically, as if on the verge of tears. "Grad school, for one thing," she said, her voice wavering just enough to sell it. "And you know Matt and I are still trying to pay off the wedding. Plus, everything is so expensive now. Groceries, rent, everything. It's not like I have someone swooping in to rescue me. I'm doing the best I can." She glanced at me as she said that last part, as if I were the one who had somehow failed her. I rolled my eyes. "You've got to be joking, Vanessa. You literally asked me for thousands of dollars yesterday. You don't get to play the 'I have no support' card when you've been relying on me and Mom and Dad for years." "That was the wrong thing to say, Dean." Mom snapped, her voice sharp for the first time all night. "There's no need to be so cruel. She's clearly struggling." "Cruel?" I said, incredulous. "Mom, she lied about me to get me excluded from Christmas, and now she's turning this entire thing into a pity party because she doesn't want to take responsibility." Vanessa shook her head, her expression a perfect blend of hurt and frustration. "You don't understand, Dean," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "You've never had to worry about this stuff. You've always had a good job, plenty of money, no one depending on you. It's easy for you to sit there and judge me, but you don't know what it's like to truly struggle." That struck a nerve. I leaned forward, my hands clenched into fists on my knees. "Are you serious right now, Vanessa? I've been working since I was 16. I paid for my own university. I've assisted Mom and Dad with bills, and I've helped you out more times than I can count. Don't sit there and act like I've had it easy just because I don't complain about every little thing." "Dean, enough." Dad barked, his voice loud enough to make everyone jump. "You've made your point. There's no need to keep piling on." "Piling on?" I said, my voice rising. "Dad, she's the one who lied about me. She's the one who caused this whole mess, but somehow I'm the bad guy for pointing it out." "Yes, you are," Mom said, her tone firm but laced with disappointment. "Because instead of trying to understand where Vanessa is coming from, you've spent this entire time attacking her. She's clearly not in a good place right now. And instead of helping her, you're just making things worse." I stared at her, stunned. "So let me get this straight. Somehow I'm the one at fault? Are you even hearing yourselves right now?" Mom crossed her arms, her face stern. "We're hearing you just fine, Dean, but what we're also hearing is that you don't seem to care about what Vanessa's experiencing." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Are you serious? I've been supporting this family for years, and this is how you repay me?" Dad shook his head, his expression a mix of frustration and disappointment. "This isn't about repayment, Dean. It's about doing the right thing. Vanessa's your sister, and she's clearly going through a difficult period. Instead of shaming her like this, you should be helping her." I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. "Helping her? That's all I've ever done. But every time I try to set a boundary, every time I say no, I'm suddenly the villain. Do you even realize how exhausting that is? Dean, Mom said, her voice softening again, you've always been the dependable one, the strong one. We didn't think you minded helping out. Well, I do mind, I said firmly, and I'm finished. At that, Matt finally spoke up. Maybe we should all just calm down, he said quietly, as if he didn't want to upset anyone. No, I said firmly, cutting him off. We're not calming down. This is the problem. Every time I try to assert myself, I'm told to calm down or let it go. Meanwhile, Vanessa gets to lie, manipulate, and take whatever she wants without any repercussions. Mom tried to intervene, her voice wavering, Dean, we didn't mean to make you feel this way. We just wanted to keep the peace. By throwing me under the bus, I interrupted. That's not keeping the peace. That's choosing sides, and it's pretty obvious whose side you're always on. Vanessa looked like she was about to say something, but I didn't give her the chance. Here's what's going to happen, I said, keeping my voice steady. If you truly believe I should pay for Vanessa's tuition, disregarding her disrespect and lies all these years, fine. I'll do it. But just so you know, the moment I make the payment, I'm done. No more money, no more favors, no more holidays. I'm out. Call it a last favor if you wish, and this time, I mean it. It's the final one. The room was so quiet you could have heard a pin drop. Vanessa's mouth fell open in shock. Mom looked as if she were about to weep. Dad just stared at me, his face unreadable. You can either continue treating me like the family ATM, I continued, or you can begin treating me like a person. But if you select the first option, don't expect me to remain. Without waiting for a response, I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and headed for the door. Let me know what you decide, I said over my shoulder. And with that, I departed. After I walked out of that meeting, I heard nothing from anyone the rest of the night. No calls, no texts, just silence. Honestly, I wasn't surprised. That's how it always unfolded when I attempted to assert myself. They'd let things settle for a bit, hoping I'd either cave or come crawling back to make amends. But not this time. At first, I thought perhaps they were finally taking me seriously. Maybe Mom and Dad realized how messed up this whole situation was. Maybe they'd return to apologize and try to make amends. The next morning, I awoke feeling strangely calm, as if a burden had been lifted. For once, I had said precisely what needed to be said, and I hadn't held back. No more sugarcoating. No more trying to spare their feelings while mine were disregarded. It felt good. I knew they wouldn't let this go quietly, especially Vanessa. She despised losing control over any situation, and I had completely reversed the dynamics on her at that meeting. I figured it was only a matter of time before someone reached out to try and mend things or guilt me into backing down. Sure enough, late that evening, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Mom. Dean, can we talk before Christmas, please? It's important. I stared at the screen for a minute, debating whether to respond. Part of me wanted to ignore it, but I also knew avoiding the conversation wouldn't resolve anything. So I called her back. Hi Mom, I said, keeping my voice as neutral as possible. What's going on? Hi honey, she replied, sounding almost nervous. I wanted to ensure you're okay. This has been a truly difficult time for everyone, and I just feel like we've all been hurt by what happened. Hurt? That was rich, considering I'd been the one lied about, excluded, and then guilt into paying Vanessa's tuition. But I held my tongue. I'm fine, I said curtly. Is that all? Well, she continued hesitantly, I was hoping we could all put this behind us. It's Christmas, after all. Don't you think we should focus on moving forward instead of dwelling on what occurred? There it was, the classic, let's sweep this under the rug approach. I'd witnessed it too many times before. Mom, I said, my tone firm but not angry, this isn't about dwelling on the past. It's about establishing boundaries. And you never do that with Vanessa. I've made my decision, and I'm adhering to it. I'm not going to keep being the person everyone relies on without any respect or consideration in return. She sighed heavily, and for a moment, I thought she might start crying. Dean, I understand that you're upset. I'm not upset, I interrupted. I'm just done. There's a distinction. There was a long pause before she spoke again. And when she did, her tone had shifted. It was softer, more resigned. If that's truly how you feel, then we've discussed it, and we'll respect your decision. I blinked, caught slightly off guard. You will? Yes, she said, though there was a strain in her voice. We don't want to lose you, Dean. If helping Vanessa with her tuition is your way of stepping back, we'll accept that. But it's just hard. You've always been such a significant part of this family. I almost laughed at the irony. A significant part? I repeated. You mean the part that pays for everything while receiving nothing in return? That's not fair, she said quickly, her voice breaking a little. We've always appreciated everything you've done for us. Maybe we just didn't say it enough. No, you didn't, I said bluntly. And that's the issue. It's not about the money, Mom. It's about the fact that you all took me for granted. Vanessa lied about me, and instead of giving me the benefit of the doubt, you believed her without question. Do you have any idea how that felt? She didn't respond right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. I'm sorry, Dean. I didn't realize how much we hurt you. I let out a slow breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. I appreciate that, Mom, but an apology doesn't alter what's been happening for years. I'm not going to keep putting myself in a position where I'm disrespected and used. That's why I'm stepping back. There was another prolonged silence, and I could almost picture her sitting at the kitchen table, trying to find the right words. I just wish things could revert to how they used to be, she said finally. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. So do I. But that's not going to happen unless things change. And honestly, I don't think Vanessa's capable of changing. She's been this way her whole life because you and Dad allowed her to get away with it. That's not fair, she said again, though her tone was weaker this time. We've tried to do what's best for both of you. No, you've done what's best for Vanessa, I corrected, and I let it happen because I didn't want to cause trouble, but I'm done doing that. For a moment, I thought she might argue again, but instead, she let out a shaky sigh. Okay, Dean. If this is truly what you desire, we'll respect your decision. Good, I said simply. I'm sending the payment to Vanessa's school. She should have the receipt in her email. After this, I'm stepping back, as I said. Thank you, she said quietly. I know it doesn't seem like it, but we do appreciate what you've done. I hope you won't cut us out completely. I'm not cutting anyone out, I said, though I wasn't sure if that was entirely true. I'm just establishing boundaries. If you can respect that, we'll be fine. She didn't respond right away, but eventually, she said, Okay, Merry Christmas, Dean. Merry Christmas, Mom, I replied before hanging up. After the call, I wired the money to Vanessa's school and sent her the receipt. Short and to the point. No explanations, no pleasantries, just the facts. It felt strange, almost surreal, to finally establish that boundary. For years, I'd been bending over backward for my family, thinking it was my duty to keep everyone content. But now, for the first time, I'd stood my ground, and they actually listened. A part of me wanted them to do something for my sake, to stand up just once for me against Vanessa. But they didn't even try. They were fine with letting me go as long as I paid her fees. I wasn't naive enough to think it would be the absolute end of it. Vanessa wasn't the type to relinquish her safety net without a struggle, and I knew my parents would find the new dynamic challenging. But for the first time in years, I felt like I had command over my own life. The rest of the day, I went about my business, finishing some work and making plans with friends for Christmas Eve. That night, as I sat on my couch with a cup of coffee, I thought about what Mom had said earlier. It's sad to see the family fall apart. Maybe she was right in a way. But it wasn't my fault. The fractures had been present for years, and I had simply been the one attempting to hold everything together. Now, I wasn't holding anything. I was releasing it. Christmas arrived and departed, and for the first time in years, it was peaceful. No frantic phone calls about last-minute gifts, no guilt-laden texts about how I wasn't doing enough for the family, and best of all, no Vanessa drama. It felt peculiar at first, as if I had suddenly stepped out of a role I'd been playing my whole life. But it also felt serene. I spent Christmas Eve with a few friends, just a small gathering with good food and laughter. It wasn't extravagant, but it was pleasant to be among people who genuinely appreciated my presence without expecting anything from me. On Christmas Day, I stayed home, slept in, and treated myself to a leisurely morning. No rushing around, no awkward family interactions, just me doing whatever I desired. Then I started to grasp just how much space my family had been occupying in my life. I don't just mean physically or financially, I mean mentally. I'd spent years juggling their expectations, their problems, and their constant need for me to step up. Without all of that looming over me, I suddenly had time and energy for myself. But while I was moving forward and enjoying the space I'd created, it was clear my family wasn't handling it as well. The first indication came the day after Christmas when my mother called. I almost didn't pick up, but eventually, I did. "Hi Dean," she said, her voice a little too cheerful. "How was your Christmas?" "It was good," I replied simply. "How was yours?" There was a pause, and then she said it was nice. "Quiet, though. We missed you." I didn't take the bait. "I'm sure it was fine," I said. "Is there something you needed?" "Well," she said, drawing out the word as if trying to ease into the true reason for her call, "I just wanted to check in and see how you're feeling. I know things have been a little tense lately." I resisted the urge to roll my eyes. "I'm fine, Mom. Is there something specific you wanted to discuss? Because otherwise, you can't just randomly call me. We're done." She hesitated again, then sighed. "I guess I just miss you. The house felt so empty this year without you here." There it was, the guilt trip. But this time, it didn't affect me the way it used to. "I'm sorry you feel that way," I said calmly. "But I think it's good for us to have some space right now. It's been a long time coming." She didn't argue, which surprised me. Instead, she said, "Well, I hope you'll come around eventually. You know we need you in our lives. You've been so helpful." "Thanks," I said, keeping my tone polite but firm. "I just hoped you'd appreciated my help." We ended the call on a cordial note, but it was clear she wasn't ready to fully accept the new dynamic. Then came Vanessa. She didn't call or text right away, which was surprising. I figured she'd be the first to reach out, either to try and guilt me into helping her with something else or to spin the situation in her favor. But when her email finally arrived, it wasn't what I expected. It was lengthy, far too long honestly, and filled with flowery language about how sorry she was for the misunderstanding. She talked about how much she appreciated everything I'd done for her over the years and how she hoped we could move past this and rebuild our bond. At first, I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to expose her obvious manipulation. The other part of me just wanted to ignore it entirely. In the end, I decided not to respond at all. It wasn't about holding a grudge. It was about preserving my peace. This email was just another attempt to keep me ensnared, and I wasn't falling for it. Mom and Dad are now sending me random texts asking about things they'd never cared about before, how my job was progressing, if I needed anything, things like that. It was obvious they were feeling the void I'd left. They'd become so accustomed to me being the one who fixed everything. And now that I wasn't there, they didn't know what to do. Vanessa especially seemed to be struggling. A mutual friend informed me she's complaining about how she'll be struggling without relying on me. Hearing that didn't make me feel good exactly, but it did confirm that I'd made the correct decision. For years, I'd been the one supporting my family, and they'd never appreciated it. Now they were finally realizing what it meant to not have me around. As for me, life feels lighter. I'm not constantly checking my phone, dreading the next request or demand. I'm living for myself instead of for everyone else. Do I miss them? Not in the way you'd expect. I don't miss the chaos or the drama or the constant pressure to be the responsible one. What I miss is the idea of having a family that genuinely supports and respects each other. But I've come to terms with the fact that the family I have isn't capable of that. And that's perfectly fine. Establishing boundaries wasn't easy, and there were moments when I doubted myself. But looking back, I know it was the right choice. I'm no longer the family's financial resource, the scapegoat, or the problem solver. I'm simply Dean. That feels sufficient.